afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And can I say how pleased I am to see how many people are still in the audience. I wasn't a bit worried that people might have started to slink away after Ray's excellent speech. Anyway, as you know, I'm Dr. Julia Reid, and this is my first speech at the South West Spring Conference since Paul Nuttall appointed me as UKIP's Environment Spokesman in November last year. Since then, UKIP haven't had any formal meetings about our environment policy, but we do have plans to arrange a venue whereby those members who would like to make a contribution towards our future policy will be able to meet with me and put forward their suggestions. This will take place in the next few months, but if you are interested, please contact my office in Chippenham. In the interim, however, and in the light of the UK's forthcoming exit from the European Union, I thought I would talk to you about what EU legislation, in particular that emanating from the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety Committee, on which I am a member, that I personally would like to see repealed. Although I would be the first to agree that some of the EU's environment legislation has had a beneficial effect in areas such as the cleanliness of the UK's rivers and beaches, such as the beautiful one here in Weymouth, and let me assure you that such legislation will still be enforced when we leave the EU. But some legislation has had a detrimental effect on our country. The EU's climate change policies and green taxes are a case in point. And Roger Helmer has been speaking to you today about carbon leakage. However, climate change policies have also had a detrimental effect on our environment. One misguided policy has been the promotion of diesel cars. When I was growing up, the majority of cars being driven on UK roads were petrol ones. But in the 1990s, when panic about anthropogenic global warming began in earnest, a dash for diesel ensued, due to diesel vehicles being more fuel efficient while producing lower levels of carbon dioxide. Since 2001, when Gordon Brown overhauled vehicle excise duty so that cars were taxed according to the amount of the dangerous pollutant carbon dioxide they emit, the situation has changed dramatically. In little under 15 years, the number of diesel cars on our roads has risen from 1.6 million to around 11 million, so that currently 33% of UK vehicles are diesel, even though it was known at the time that diesel vehicles emit far more fine particles, known as diesel particulate matter, or DPM, and almost double the amount of nitrogen oxides, NOx, than petrol models. The issue of DPM is a serious one, as the readily inhaled fine particles end up deep in the lungs, where they are deposited or quickly transported into the bloodstream, and their inhalation is known to cause asthma, allergies and lung cancer, at the same time as exacerbating chronic health conditions such as heart disease, emphysema and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD as it's more commonly known. It has been estimated that up to 7,000 people die each year as a consequence of pollution from diesel vehicles. However, diesel vehicles aren't the only contributors to pollution and smog in our cities. In January, air pollution in areas of London peaked at 197 micrograms per cubic metre for particulate matter on the Air Quality Index, and smoke from wood-burning stoves was found to be a contributory factor. Currently, in excess of 1 million UK homes have a wood-burning stove, with about 175,000 new ones being installed a year. Over the past 5 years, demand for wood-burning stoves has tripled, partly due to the increased cost of gas and electricity, and the belief that they are carbon neutral, and therefore their use helps combat climate change. However, last year a report from the University of Southampton found that wood-burning stoves liberate significant amounts of particulate pollution into the outdoor air, which threatens to reverse the benefits achieved by the implementation of the Clean Air Act, which was brought in after the Great Smog of 1952. So, in order to mitigate against so-called global warming, we now have an environment where the air in our towns and cities has been made unsafe to breathe, in order to lessen the production of the dangerous pollutant, carbon dioxide, which is a harmless requisite for life on Earth. The other concern with wood-burning stoves is how and where people get the wood to fuel them. Surprising as it may seem, all woodland in the UK is managed, and very few permit the collection of firewood, and even then only with a licence. People mistakenly believe that they are not doing any damage by chopping up and taking away a fallen tree branch, whereas in reality it's been left where it is in order to form a deadwood habitat for all manner of woodland creatures. Another threat to the environment is uncontrolled immigration into our country, and is another reason why it is imperative for us to leave the EU single market if we are to have a managed immigration policy. Rather than accept that large numbers of people emigrating to the UK are responsible for the current housing crisis, some people would have you believe that the problem is down to people like us living longer. Irrespective of the reason, they insist that the housing crisis can be solved by building hundreds of thousands of new houses, irrespective of where they are to be built, and already it's being proposed that we should build on parts of the Greenbelt. In Wiltshire, where I live, we have seen an explosion in the number of new houses being built, small market towns almost doubling in size, with the space between them getting smaller and smaller, as our beautiful countryside disappears at an alarming rate under tarmac and concrete. How can development on this scale be beneficial to the environment and to the wild flora and fauna, which is coming increasingly under pressure as their habitat is lost or degraded? On a lighter note, and this is tongue-in-cheek, once free of the EU, I would like to see an end to the demonisation of the incandescent light bulb. Which was first invented about 150 years ago. The fact that it continued in production for so long is tantamount to its being a good design which was cheap to produce. These lights were banned by the EU because they were deemed to be inefficient due to the amount of heat they produce. However, in a country like ours, where the temperatures fall as soon as it gets dark, this wasn't unwelcome. Incandescent light bulbs have been replaced by a number of alternatives which are more expensive and in some cases unpopular. Take the compact fluorescent lamp, CFL for example, which doesn't produce warm light, takes longer to get bright, especially in cold weather, and emits UV radiation, and contains mercury vapour, which is a problem if you break one. It also means that they shouldn't be disposed of along with normal household rubbish, though I suspect that many end up there. Another of the alternatives to the incandescent light bulbs, halogen bulbs, are also to be banned by the EU. In fact, directional halogen bulbs, the GU10, should have been banned last September, but due to concern that LED replacements may not be ready in time, the phase has been delayed till 2018. And what of the LED? These are now more readily available and are being recommended to take the place of halogen bulbs. Although more expensive, they are supposed to last up to 10 years longer, but from personal experience, I know this is not necessarily true. However, concerns are now being raised about these, and, excuse the pronunciation, Professor Oladele Ogunsaitang, Chair of the Department of Population Health and Disease Prevention at the University of California, is quoted in Scientific American as saying that LEDs do have a dark side. In a 2010 study conducted by Professor Ogunsaitang and other researchers, which was published in the Environmental Science and Technology Journal, they found that LEDs contain lead, arsenic, and a dozen other potentially dangerous substances. In addition, other researchers have found that long-term exposure to light from LED bulbs can damage the retina in the human eye, and a study carried out by the University of Antwerp even found that LED lights were bleaching the paint on works by Van Gogh and Cézanne. So will there be a better future, better bulb in the future? back to the incandescent light bulb. One of the reasons why traditional incandescent bulbs have remained so popular, despite them only being about 5% efficient, is that with a colour rendering index rating of 100, they match the hue of objects seen in natural daylight, whereas even warm finish LED or fluorescent bulbs can only achieve an index rating of 80, and that's the very best ones. Here come researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT as it's known, who have shown that by surrounding the conventional tungsten filament of an incandescent bulb with a special crystal structure, they can bounce back energy which is usually lost while still allowing light through. Moran Soljici, professor of physics at MIT, refers to the technique as recycling light, because the energy which would usually escape the bulb into the air is redirected back to the filament where it can create new light. The research, which was published last year in the Journal of Nanotechnology, forecasts that the efficiency levels of this new incandescent bulb could reach 40%, outperforming the 14% efficiency of current modern energy-efficient bulbs, while at the same time as displaying colours far more naturally. So, the good news is the future is bright for the incandescent light bulb. Needless to say, there is other EU environment legislation that we could repeal or modify, but I haven't got time to discuss this now. What I can tell you is that in the coming months, UKIP will put forward a realistic and sensible climate policy. Watch this space. Thank you very much.